Welcome to Crimepedia podcast. This week I am your host. I'm Cherry, and with me, as always, is the best sidekick in the West. It is the lovely Morgan.
Oh, hello, Cherry. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm good. Are you good?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good week?
Yeah, I feel a little older for some reason. I don't know.
You were the birthday boy, weren't you? Consumed your body weight in cake and treats.
God, I wish.
So we've got some really nice people that have done some really nice reviews for us this week, which is very exciting. Yes, thank you for all your 5-star reviews. If you fancy helping out our show, you can do. Just literally by giving us a review. It takes 2 minutes. You don't even have to write anything if you really don't want to, but it would be great if you did, because we'd very much appreciate it. We've got one that says, is it from Zizou? Zizou. Yeah, via Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for your lovely review. It's really kind of you. Thank you. That was about the CJ Davis case. We've also got another one from Razorback Nation. I had to get you to explain that to me.
Charlene, yeah.
I was
Arkansas.
Yeah. So thank you very much to North Pole family. Charlene, thank you so much for your lovely review. And that was really, really kind of you. We really, really appreciate it. I kind of
feel like I should read this one. This one's really nice. Love y'all. Go. I've been a listener since it was Captain and Morgan. And don't get me wrong, I love the Captain. True Crime Garage is one of my OG podcasts.
Yeah.
But Morgan and Cherry have a special kind of banter that I just adore. I look forward to your new episodes every week and how you always really seem to bring a fresh perspective to every case. I also like how you don't only do U.S. cases. Keep it up, y'all.
Oh, that is so cool, isn't it? It's such a lovely review. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. We really do appreciate that. And thanks to all our Patreons for your brilliant interactivity over on Patreon. You've all been great. It's been very much fun. So thank you all for that as well. We got a new episode. You should have already listened to it before you listened to this episode.
Yeah. They've been helping out with me with some pizza ideas.
Pizza? Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's not what you're supposed to use Patreon for. You're not supposed to grill people for recipes.
No, I put a picture of my pizza from a Friday, because it's Friday night pizza night. And I said, hey, what type of pizza should I try next? And I got some good suggestions. And I did try one. One was you should do a taco pizza next. And I said, done. I did taco pizza.
That sounds good. That sounds really good. I love tacos.
Very nice.
Yeah, I do love tacos. Okay, so are you ready for me to get you into this week's case?
I am. Let's do it.
It was July 1951, and one of the biggest title fights in boxing history was about to take place. The people of Windsor were very excited to see one of the boxing legends arrive in the town. However, this fight would forever be linked with a very sad story. On that day, 7-year-old Christine Butcher would leave her home and never return. She would be found dead 2 days later, a mile away from home. Was she killed by a serial killer? Was there a famous or important person involved? And was her death a complete cover-up? This is Crimepedia, and we want to know who killed Christine Butcher. Okay, Morgan, so 7-year-old Christine Vivian Butcher lived in Windsor Town Centre on Peascod Street. Now, Peascod Street is one of the oldest streets in Windsor itself, and it runs southwest towards the main entrance to Windsor Castle, which is, of course, where the Queen goes and lives.
Oh,
now,
yes.
She enjoyed going out to see famous people that visited the area and also loved the fact that the Queen of England lived nearby her house in the castle. Now, on the 8th of July in 1951, Sugar Ray Robinson, the boxer, had arrived in Windsor to train for his upcoming fight with Randolph Turpin. She was a big fan of his, and she wanted to go and show him her black Pickaninny doll. I'd never heard of a Pickaninny doll. So I Googled to have a look and see what it is, and it's a small porcelain black-faced dolly. And she wanted to show it to him because she thought that it looked like him. Now, bearing in mind, we're going back to 1951. So, you know, kind of thing. now, obviously, I don't think people will be very accepting of that. But obviously back then, it was
No.
a little bit different. Now,
Yeah.
she was also hoping that he would take her for a ride in his pink Cadillac. Because obviously, as we know, Sugar Ray
Oh.
Robinson had a gorgeous pink Cadillac.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the hotel that he was staying at was called the Star and Garter, and it was about 30 yards away from where she lived. And it was
Okay.
said that that weekend, about 10,000 visitors to Windsor on that day was like an influx of 10,000 people into a small little town like that. So there were people absolutely everywhere. Now,
Yeah.
that day when Sugar Ray was leaving his hotel and was en route to the weigh-in, which was on Windmill Street in London, the streets were so full of people that his Cadillac was literally pushing through the crowds of people as it was driving through. Traffic was stopped in all directions at Piccadilly Circus, and there were reports saying that it was the biggest crowd of people to take into the streets since V-Day in London. It's
Wow.
absolutely crazy. Now, he was half an hour late to the weigh-in because of all the traffic and all the people that were around there. Now, Christine was desperate to see him, and so her mum waved her off at 3:30 that Sunday. Now, nowadays, looking at that, she's 7 years old, and her mum's just waved her off to just go down the street, 30 yards down the street, to see this huge star. It's mad to think that you would do that, but obviously back then, again, it was a totally different time. So her mum waved her off. It was a Sunday. It was 3:30 in the afternoon, but she never got there. So just 30 yards down the road, she never got in to see Sugar Ray, and none of the hotel staff ever saw her at the hotel. Now, she had been wearing a green and white gingham dress with a little blue, it's called a Macintosh, but we just know them as Macs, but this little blue Mac over the top. And she had short, fair hair and blue eyes. So she's she's only small, tiny girl. She went off with some sweets in her pocket, and she took her Piccaninny doll down to show him. Now, her parents raised the alarm when she didn't return, and Berkshire Police then launched a huge search for her. Officers think that she had reached the outskirts of these people because there's huge amounts of crowds there with people gathering to try and get a look at the boxes. They think that she had got past all these people before she disappeared. So they brought in sniffer dogs, they brought in soldiers to try and help scour the area. They dragged a part of the Thames River as part of the hunt to find her. They appealed for information from the public. They even went and visited Sugar Ray Robinson himself and interviewed him to see if he could give them any sort of insight as to where she had gone. So the disappearance of Christine made global headlines, and he was quoted as actually saying, "I'm very sorry about this. If I had known she wanted to see me, her daddy could have brought her in and this would never have happened. I wouldn't have minded if if her dad had brought her in to see me," which is just lovely, isn't it? So the search carried on, and obviously this huge title fight between him and his opponent it was overshadowed really by this young girl going missing. And unknown to either of them, 2 days later, on the 10th of July 1951, at the same time that 18,000 people were heading off to Earl's Court to watch Sugar Ray and Randolph Turpin fight, two people were walking about a mile away from Christine's house in long grass in a meadow called Stephen's Meadow, which is actually in the grounds of Windsor Castle. And they found the body of 7-year-old Christine Butcher.
Oh, no.
So she was half dressed when they found her. She was lying in this sort of meadow with all this long grass, and lying beside her was the doll that she wanted to show Sugar Ray Robinson, along with the bag of sweets that she had put in her pocket when she left. Now, she had been strangled with the belt from the Mac that she was wearing, and it was tied really tightly around her neck. There was also abrasions to her face and an abrasion to one of her arms. And I think probably most disturbing of all, that it was reported that she had been raped before and after she had died. Now, Scotland Yard were called in to investigate this, and a 15-year-old friend of Christine Butcher said that she saw her with a man in a grey suit on the day that she disappeared. She said that she waved at her and that Christine waved back at her. So this is like a pretty good confirmed sighting. It's somebody who knows Christine really well. She waved at her and she waved back. So I think this is a really good one that we can sort of go with, quite a solid sighting. She also said that two men, one was an elderly man and the other one dressed in the grey suit, had asked her to sit with them under some trees. And she said that she was sure that if she saw those men that were with Christine again, she would recognise them. But there wasn't, anybody to show her to see. She didn't recognize anybody else in the area. And after the disappearance, 3 films were given to the police that were showing the crowds outside the Star and Garter Hotel.
Yeah.
One of them was an employee of the hotel, and he was taking like a cinematic, those old style little cameras, one of those like cine films. So he was taking a film, obviously for the hotel, because they had these huge stars coming in. And then another one was taken by Sugar Ray's wife. She also took a film, and another one was by a local girl. These were all given in. There was also one by a television company. So one of the films actually showed Christine with her black-faced doll in the background of the crowd. So she was actually seen in the crowd, but not with
Really?
anybody. So there's nobody discernible they could see with her, but they did actually spot her. And they showed her mum and dad the videos, and they confirmed that, yeah, that was her and that was what she was wearing that day. So police also then appealed to people to look at their photographs of the day, because there were a lot of people there. And they said, like, look at the photographs that you've taken, because any of them might contain pictures of her accidentally, just sort of in the background. Now, they had over 100 people come forward with information following this like police appeal for this. But the police said that no real clues had actually come of it, and they didn't have any more information. They also had a coach driver who came forward and said that he had seen Christine Butcher alone in a car park at around 4:00 on the Sunday. So this is about half an hour after she left her mum. Now, she was still carrying her doll, and she was watching a sentry at the changing of the guard at Windsor Castle. Now, the police actually investigated this and even took uniforms from soldiers that were on duty that day to test them, to see if they had like any blood on them or anything like that. I mean, obviously, we're not talking DNA here, but we're talking about, to see if there was anything that they could find that was anything to do with this little girl. And then again, nothing came of that one. So there was one last sighting of her, and this was at 4:07 that afternoon. And this was by a woman who said that she saw her walking down an alley behind some people towards the river. So she was walking down through this alleyway. Now, on the 16th of July, Christine's burial took place, and there was about 600 people gathering on Peascod Street as her hearse took her little tiny coffin, a little white coffin, on the final journey to Windsor Cemetery. Now, they stopped briefly outside the spot where she was last seen, so outside the hotel, and she was buried in the Windsor Cemetery. And I actually found a picture of her grave, and her grave, it has a figurine, like a headstone of an angel that looks like it's looking down over the grave. It's a very sweet headstone. And then there's a small stone memorial that's in the middle of her grave that is from the children of St. Stephen's School. It's really, really, really sad.
Yeah.
It's awful, isn't it, when it's children? It's just,
is.
yeah, it's horrible. So this takes us then to the 17th of July. And in 1951, now the police made an appeal for 4 people that had been seen in that alleyway to the side of the Star and Garter Hotel. And this is near the steps that led down to the railway station. So this was a man aged 20 to 25 years old, 5'11", quite well built, wearing a sandy coloured sports jacket and some grey flannel trousers.
All right.
Then there was a woman and a child with no description available. Another woman and child, no description available. And the 4th person was a man aged 40 to 45, about 5'9", medium to stocky, and clean shaven. Now, this was said that they were all in the alleyway known locally as Drive Slowly Alley or Death Trap Alley. And this was a favourite shortcut through to the river. So this would be where the locals would take a shortcut out of the main throng of the main road. You take this shortcut down to the river. And they were all people that were seen at around 4:00 on that Sunday. And the police believe that there was a very good chance that Christine would have also been seen in that immediate area at the time. So one of those people or more of those people might have seen her then. But still, to this day, no one has come forward.
Interesting. Well, if they weren't from the area, would they have known that police were looking for them?
No, exactly. And this is the problem, because so many people had come to Windsor that day purely to try and get a glimpse of the 2 boxers. it's quite possible that quite a few of the people there haven't got anything to do with Windsor whatsoever, and that don't know the
Yeah.
area and have literally just gone off. But I mean, this case received widespread global press coverage because obviously one of the boxes is not from is from America. So
Yes.
this is the thing. It did get a lot, and also that it's this has been in the Boxing Times. It's always since then. Every time they talk about this fight, not only because Sugar Ray lost the fight, which was huge, crazy disappointment that nobody saw coming, but
Yeah.
the fact that this little girl went missing because she was trying to see her hero, this sort of fight and this disappearance have always gone hand in hand in all sorts of reports following that day. So if you were a
Yeah.
boxing fan and you've gone there to see them, I don't think there would be a chance that you wouldn't have heard about this. Even if
Okay.
you were from another country, I think this still would have come up in if you were looking for, the news reports after.
Gotcha.
I mean, the problem is we're not talking about a time when you can use the internet. So it's not as if you've gone to it and then gone home and Googled to see if you can see yourself. But I think that it still would have been on news reports that this little girl was there to see Sugar Ray Robinson and then went missing.
And I don't know. This is the other thing I thought, because two of them were a woman with child, right?
Yes.
With a child.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that a woman would, take their kid and hop on a train or whatever to go out to Windsor to see Sugar Ray Robinson. So I would imagine maybe they would at least be local.
Well, maybe, but if they're with a man, they might have gone as a family.
Oh,
they might not have been on their own. Because I mean, there's nothing to say that woman wasn't with the first man, and the second woman wasn't with the other man. So they could have been a family, couldn't they? And they could.
Yeah, it's just interesting though that they have it listed as what they had the men listed separately, but then the woman and child together.
Yeah.
Maybe they would say we're looking for a man with a woman and child. This is what they look like, because the way that it looked like from the way you described it, almost sounds like they were four people that were separate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they just listed it. It was just like a list of people that they were looking for that were seen in the alley. So it's just they've listed it like that. But I mean, it's strange that they've listed such good details on the men, but nothing very much on the women. There's nothing to describe the woman or the child. So we don't know if it was a woman with a boy, a woman with a girl. There's not much to describe those.
Yeah.
Now, they also were looking for a red-faced man who was seen outside Christine Butcher's home on that Sunday. And he was described as being, this is sort of telling of the time. He was described as being red-faced, hatless, and about 35 years old.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, first off, what would red face be? Is it like he just looked flushed?
Flushed? I don't know if he's been running or whether he was just like, I don't know, broken capillaries or I don't know.
But he didn't have a hat. You can't.
He didn't have a hat.
Not wear a hat.
He was hatless, which I mean,
weird.
Did lots of people? I guess back then, men would be dressed in like suits and wearing hats, maybe, and he didn't have a hat on, so obviously dodgy.
Yeah, obviously. I don't know why they wouldn't have been able to find a hatless man. That sounds like they would be able to find him real quick.
Yeah. On the afternoon of the 15th of July, police reenacted the murder. Now, they did it between 5 and 5:30, and it was said that about 30,000 people turned up.
What?
Because they did like a police reenactment of where she may have walked and where she was. 30,000 people.
That is insane.
Turned up.
Like this is like a spectator sport? That's horrible.
Well, the police said that there were about 1,000 people in and around the 48-acre meadow where she was murdered. And the police said they described it as looking like a beach. There was that many people there.
Like they're on a holiday or what?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
Oh, so strange.
So we've got a full description of the man who they thought could help. So this red-faced man, they've got height 5'10" or 5'11", about 35, fair hair with it brushed back and clean shaven, complexion reddish, and then clothes
Did your flush
plain,
man?
Yeah, plain navy blue suit with no hat.
No hat. Oh.
So that's him, no hat. But they've got nothing other than that to go on. So this guy was obviously seen outside Christine's house that afternoon. So they're wondering, could this be? But obviously earlier on, we were told by that young girl that she was seen with a guy in a grey suit. So this could be just a guy that was just waiting outside her house. I mean, she was 30 yards away from the hotel. So she's not a huge amount away, where he might have been standing just away from the crowd slightly. Now, when the pathologist examined Christine Butcher's body, he said that the forensic evidence suggests that she had been murdered where she was found. And this was primarily because the grass that was in the meadow was still rooted in the ground, and it was actually caught up inside the knot that was tied around the ligature on her neck, around her neck.
Okay.
So the grass was actually tied within the knot and still in place in the ground. So it's quite obvious that that ligature was tied where she lay.
So that would tell me that she had been murdered fairly quickly after she was taken.
That's what police
and she was
believe.
murdered in broad daylight, essentially.
Yeah. And that's what the police believe, that she was murdered on that day. And obviously it's about a mile from her home. So she's not far from home at all. Now, the inquest took place on the 21st of September 1951, and this returned a verdict of murder by some person or persons unknown. So at least they actually got it down as a murder. The police said that they'd taken over 1,800 statements and still had not very much to go on. But following the murder, there were further reports of little girls being molested. And this was reported to Hampshire police and the RAF. They had been looking through the woods at a place called East Cholderton, which is near Andover. And they were looking for a man who was said to have pointed a gun at a 7-year-old girl, I think it was, and 2 boys. And the boys were like 10 and 12. Now, Wiltshire police also reported to have been searching for a man who frightened a 12-year-old girl near South Wroxall, which was also the Tuesday following her murder. But I looked and I couldn't find anything further on these reports. When I put in the areas and I put in like child abductions and child molestations, it came up with all sorts of church stuff and clergymen that were accused of molesting children. So it was going completely down the wrong path.
Yeah.
So there isn't a lot about that. But this is the weirdest thing about this case, okay? So I checked the public records and I searched the National Archives hold public records that you can find into murders and deaths. Now, Christine's file is closed. It's a closed, retained document and will not able to be viewed by the public until 2047.
Why?
I have no idea. Now, her public records have been closed for 74 years. It was due to be reviewed in 2016, and it was deemed then in 2016 that it was still going to be closed until 2047. So from the day she was murdered, it would have been closed for 74 years.
Okay, so normally they do that type of stuff to protect innocent people who are still alive, right? Or something like that.
Well, the exceptions or the exemptions for looking at this is law enforcement, health and safety people, and personal information where the applicant is a third party involved, okay? I've read some reports that this could be due to a member of the royal family or friend being involved in this case.
What?
Because of where she was found. She was found on the grounds of Windsor Castle.
Okay, let me ask you about Windsor Castle. So I'm assuming that at least a portion of Windsor Castle would be like blocked off from public, right?
Yeah.
Now, but this area that she has found, what was it, Stevens Meadows or something like that?
Yeah.
Is that, but even though it's on the grounds of Windsor Castles, is it public land?
Yes.
Or, I mean, is it open?
I believe so, yeah. I believe you could just go and walk around it at the time. I think now it's used for, I think now a business has got it using solely for their they rent it from the crown or whatever.
Okay.
But I think at the time you could just walk around it. I did have a look at the Windsor Castle grounds to have a look where it was, and it's just like a huge meadow. It's just a massive, great big meadow with nothing really in it at the time that I could find.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, when I looked into this, and obviously because of the whole stuff that we've got going on with Prince Andrew and the cover-ups that they've got going on with that, I thought, this is quite interesting. Could this be that a member of the royal family had been perhaps accused of something? Not necessarily that they did something, but were they accused of it? And that's why her records have been closed and sealed. I also read reports that Sugar Ray was a Freemason and therefore somehow he was involved with this. There were reports that tried to tie Jimmy Savile with it, because one of the Freemasons was married to a lady that was had something to do with Jimmy Savile and his goings on, and that could this have something to do with it? I've read other reports that say Sugar Ray definitely did it. I mean, there's nothing to say in any way that he was involved whatsoever.
Yeah,
but you know what conspiracy theories are like, and you get to see all these different things. There is only one suspect that I could find that I think could be connected to this case, and this is a guy called John Straffen. Now, Christine Butcher was killed in July. Then 6-year-old Brenda Goddard was reported missing on July the 15th, okay? And her strangled body was found 3 hours later. Then on the 8th of August, 9-year-old Cecily Batson went to the movies and never came back. And her body was found the following morning, and she had also been strangled. Now, police initially refused to link these murders. They didn't want to say that there was a serial killer on the loose. They didn't want to frighten people. They'd said that there wasn't anything that connected the three girls, other than the fact that they were all strangled and they were all young. They had no clues to put anyone with this, and they had no suspect in each of those murders. But on the 9th of August, they actually had 21-year-old John Straffen in custody on unrelated charges. And whilst he was in his cell, he confessed to the murder of Cecily Batson. He was then charged with her murder. Now, he was also charged with the murder of Brenda Goddard, but never went to trial because he was declared insane and not fit to stand trial. So in that case, then, he was then sent to Broadmoor Asylum. So obviously Broadmoor is very famous in England. Now, on the 29th of April, 1952, he managed to escape from Broadmoor. So he actually got out of Broadmoor.
Damn, okay.
And in the 24 hours that he was free, he killed a 5-year-old girl called Linda Bowyer. Now, this time he was caught and he was declared fit to stand trial, and he was sentenced to death. However, it was later changed to life imprisonment because he had learning difficulties and they didn't think it was right to put him to death. So he was then charged with life imprisonment and was charged with the murders of Brenda, Cecily, and Linda. But he's never been charged with the murder of Christine.
Okay.
So he is the only person that I could find that was in and around the area at the time, has obviously got previous, has killed girls of a similar age in a similar way, in a very close proximity. But unfortunately, he died in November 2007. And so far, to this day, no one has ever been brought forward or put forward for Christine's death at all. There's been nothing, and it just seems to have completely gone dead.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So this John Straffen.
Yeah.
Brenda and Cicely, they were killed in Bath, right?
Yeah. Which is not far.
Okay. So it's not that far. So
no.
It wouldn't be surprising if he would have popped up in Windsor then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the only person that I can find that could have any link, unless you go down the whole conspiracy theory that perhaps it's somebody from Windsor Castle. And that's why, I mean, that's the thing for this case. That's the thing that confuses me the most. Why is her public record? Why is the public record to her investigation? Why is it sealed? No one seems to know.
Protecting someone.
Exactly. You seal
those
records for a reason.
It would have to be someone that has some sort of
Yeah.
notoriety,
Yeah.
or
And
someone
someone
that
who was
is,
fairly young at the time, I would say, because they've sealed it for 74 years. So, I mean, was this person maybe in their 20s at the time? Or because then it's a life expectancy, perhaps. That's why they've done it for that length of time. Could this person have been in their
well,
30s or 40s, maybe, and they've done it for that length of time because they're sure that that person's going to be dead by the time it's opened again? You can request to have it. You can request to have it opened, but you need to be a certain type of person or in a certain job to be able to do that. And even then, it says that they might not release all of the records to you. So quite a lot of it could be redacted. And then what's the point in having it, because it doesn't make sense?
yeah, interesting.
But it's
You know
only when
who's
you
in?
get to that point in this story that then it becomes very interesting. Because I think, well, okay, it was a murder of a young girl. Okay, it could have been one of anybody that was in the town. But then when you get to the
Yeah.
point that it's been sealed and that her records will not be open to anybody for 74 years, that's when you think, well, okay, who are they protecting and why are they protecting them?
Okay, stick with me on this. Okay,
Go.
so they're protecting someone.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to release, the file. What year was it that they
19, what, that
initially
she
said?
died?
No. The file that they
Oh, 2047.
in 24, but it was, what was the first date they were gonna release it?
Oh, they would relook at it 2016.
Okay, 2016. Okay.
Yeah.
So this, to me, they're protecting someone that is well known, has some, maybe they're famous,
Maybe.
they need to protect them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They, let's say hypothetically, they were in their 20s,
Yeah.
but they surpassed the age in which they would have thought they might have passed. So then they were like, okay, we got to do this longer, but we don't know when they're going to die. This person's maybe never die.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, you know who was 25 years old in 1951?
Who?
Do you know who was 25 years old and is still alive and may never die?
Who?
Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh, come on. It's not the Queen. She didn't do it.
Name someone else who was in Windsor, who was in their
Yeah.
20s, who will never die,
It's crazy, isn't it?
who needs to be protected at all
Mm.
costs.
Mm.
Elizabeth, where were you? Where
Yeah.
were you, Queen
Anybody
Elizabeth?
spoken to her? It's crazy, isn't it?
No, it's very strange.
Mm.
Now, I would think in a normal circumstance,
Yeah.
you would at least think that you would have some eyewitnesses that would have a better idea of her movements.
Yes.
That would be like, yeah, I saw a young girl walking with a man in that direction at this
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
The problem is because this was not a normal day.
Mm.
You were talking about an additional 10,000 people in the area.
Yeah.
Where she was is jam packed because everyone wants to see Sugar Ray Robinson. So seeing a young girl walking with a man was not going to be something that stood out to anyone.
No, that's right.
Now, what I'm interested in, and I would be interested in seeing, is this someone from out of town, or is this someone that she was familiar with already? Because if she is willingly walking with someone, either one of two things is going on. Either she knows who the person is and she's comfortable with him,
Yeah.
and she's not threatened by him, or is this guy telling her something like, "Hey, I can have you meet Sugar Ray Robinson."
Yeah. Well, her mum said that she was very sure that she wouldn't have gone with somebody she didn't know. But I thought the same as you. If this little girl has mentioned to an adult that she's going to go and show Sugar Ray her dolly, and this person says, "Oh, sure, I know who Sugar Ray. I know Sugar Ray. I can take you to him."
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, she's
But how
7
do
years
you?
old. It doesn't matter what your
She is
parents
7.
tell you to do. She's 7 years old.
I know,
And so in that respect, I agree with you. It could be somebody that's just said to her, "Look, I could take you to him."
but there has to be at some point when, if you're going down to where he's supposed to be,
Mm,
and at some point you're walking towards this meadow,
mm.
there has to be some point where she goes, "Wait, something's not right here."
But she's 7. You
Well,
know,
I
he could have
know.
told her, like, I'm going to take you. He's going to come up here where nobody knows where he is, so I can have you meet him. You don't know what he's
Yeah.
told her, do you? And she's going near the
Yeah.
castle where the queen lives. He could say, look, after he's going to go and see the queen, he's got tea with the queen or something, and
Mhm.
I can take you to meet him. Let's go and wait for him up by the castle. So she goes, oh yeah, that's a great idea.
So
Because she's already
well,
in awe of the queen and the fact that
yeah.
she lives just around the corner from her house.
Yeah, it's true. But so it's obvious. I think that we're both agree that this was a crime of opportunity, right? I don't think that this person went out
No. And
thinking
purposely
I'm
looked for
gonna
her.
because who in their right mind goes and says I'm gonna abduct someone from a large crowd of people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got the archives, the National Archives catalogue in front of me, and it says here, description, unsolved murder of Christine Vivian Butcher, 7 years old, at Windsor, Berkshire, on 8th of July, 1951, orderable at item level. So then it
Yeah.
says, date, 1951 to 1972, held by the National Archives Kew. Then it's got references to like the department, how much they've got statements, they've got parts 1, 2, 2B, 4, and 5, and then loads of numbers. Legal status, public records. Then it says closure status, closed or retained document, open description. Access conditions, closed for 74 years. Review date, 2016. Exemption 1, law enforcement. Exemption 2, health and safety. Exemption 3, personal information where the applicant is a third party. Record opening date, 1st of January 2047. And then there's a big
Weird.
box that says this record is closed. Opening date 1st of January 2047. Submit FOI request. So I had a look here. It says information about the Freedom of Information review process. And it says this record is closed and cannot be viewed or reproduced as a digital or printed copy. You can submit a Freedom of Information request to the National Archives to review the reasons why it's closed and to request that it's opened. As part of the review, we will consult the responsible government department. If the record can be opened, it will be made available for public access and for copies to be made. It is possible that only parts of the record can be opened, and once your FOI request has been received, it will be processed and you will receive a response within 20 working days. Please note that in certain circumstances, the review process will take slightly longer. So you can submit a request for it to be opened, but it says that it may be made available for public access, copies can be made, but it is possible that only parts of the record will be opened. So the chances are you're not going to get the full. There's a reason this record is closed. So what's that reason? You can ask, because it does say that you can ask why it's closed.
That's so strange.
So I might just send one and just ask, could you just
Why?
tell me why it's closed? Like, why is it closed?
They're gonna come back saying, "Oh, why not?"
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It's so weird. This is so weird,
Isn't it? And it was a normal sort of case until you get to that. As soon as I got to that, I was like, "Whoa, something is not right here." And I mean, the child, I couldn't find it, but I would imagine that her mum and dad aren't alive anymore.
No,
So
no.
exactly. So you know,
I mean, I don't know why.
yeah,
Why would they? Why would they seal it for
that's
so
right.
long?
Exactly.
I don't know.
I know.
I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to come up with any sort of reason.
That's the only thing I could come up with, is that it is somebody, they've obviously sealed it because of somebody of notoriety, somebody who they're
Yeah.
obviously it's closed to protect somebody. But I'm going to ask them. I've submitted a request to ask why the record is closed and would it be available to view before 2047. So we'll just see. I'll let you know what happens and see.
2047.
I know. I mean, it was closed for 74 years. Strange.
That is very strange.
Yeah. Isn't it?
74 year. 74 years. Let's see. That means that Queen Elizabeth would have been like 100.
Mm.
So if they said, we are not going to open this up until the queen is at least 100 years old,
Yeah.
it's the queen. No, I'm kidding.
Well, it says that when you have a look and you can, there's sorts of like frequently asked questions, and it says there are various reasons why there would be an extended closure. Some records contain distressing personal information about people and events. Others include information whose release could damage national security or international relations, or the information may have been supplied subject to certain confidential undertakings. I don't like the way this is pointing to Liz. But it's strange, isn't it? You've got to admit it's a very strange situation.
It wasn't Prince Philip.
No.
Let's be straightforward with that, because he was a gentleman and a scholar.
Oh, so it has to be Queen Elizabeth. It definitely wasn't Queen Elizabeth.
I mean,
She's the
look.
Queen. She's not going to do that to a child, is she? But doesn't it make you think, like, who else was around at that time in Windsor?
Yeah.
That's a possible threat to national security, or, you know?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is very interesting.
I knew you'd think so.
I don't think it's ever going to be solved.
No.
But
unfortunately, with this case, obviously we usually work on cold cases that we try and help. But I'm sure there must be somebody somewhere that knows something about this. There's got to be somebody who used to work somewhere, possibly, that knows of things that went on that maybe shouldn't have gone on, or people in the area that maybe shouldn't be in the area.
This seems like this would be like one of those cases where there'd be a lot of like rumors going around with
local
rumors. Or someone knows something like this.
Yeah.
Like, I heard that.
Yes.
So and so.
Yes, exactly. And obviously it's been a long time since that happened. We're talking like 1951. It's a long time. There's got to be some grandmas and granddads out there somewhere that know something.
Yeah, you would think.
And I know obviously her parents, probably aren't with us anymore, so they're not going to get any answers. But I hate the fact to think that this little girl, her death has gone unexplained, and nobody's there fighting for her. And she's a 7-year-old kid, and the fact that she was brutally, she was murdered and then raped.
For what?
She's 7. I mean, come on. Exactly. 7 years old.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to, the chances are this possibly person could be dead by now, but I don't know. If her things have been sealed for 2047, there's a reason they've been sealed for 74 years. And why? Is that because the person that had something to do with this was young at the time and was likely to live beyond 2047?
Can you think of any other murder? I can think of one, but can you think of any other murder in which the case files or stuff like this has been sealed for so long?
No, I can't.
I can think of one.
Can you?
I can think of one. John F. Kennedy.
Oh, yes. Yes.
One. So we're talking Kennedy.
Yeah.
We're talking now Christine Butcher.
And the fact that it happened where it happened, on the grounds of a royal castle.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
It's very interesting.
And that is this week's case for you.
This turned out to be extremely interesting.
The other interesting thing about this one is if you go online and you look up about this case, there is not a lot of information on this case. Not a lot at all. I read through some tabloid stories, but they are very, very vague. Very, very vague.
Yeah.
And it all seems to just stop. There's nothing. It just seems to stop.
There are no pictures.
No.
Of this supposed day where 10,000 people went to go see Sugar Ray Robinson. There are no pictures online of the event, of people out there waiting for him.
Not very many pictures of her. I could only find 2 pictures of her. One is from a newspaper when it was literally like made with dots, and it's very, very unclear. And then there's another picture of her, which is very old, and she's very small. It's a very small picture. There's hardly anything. If you go to Google Images or anything like that, there's hardly anything about her.
Is that super pixelated
Yes, the
photo
one.
of her?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
the
the
dots one.
is that what a Macintosh is?
Well, it's
Or what
it's
is
a
that?
Mac, like a rain Mac. It's kind of like a little rain Mac.
Oh,
So
gotcha,
that's
gotcha,
what it is. It's
gotcha.
like a little blue rain Mac, and that was what the person obviously took the belt from her Mac and
Yeah.
strangled her with the Mac, with the belt. Sorry.
Huh. So strange.
Mm. But sad, isn't it, that
So it is.
it seems that this has been covered up or like pushed to one side. It's a strange, strange case.
Mm. Well, thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. I hope that someone somewhere is listening that maybe has a grandma or granddad that lives in Windsor that maybe asks some questions and then, gets the answer
Yeah.
or gets a
Absolutely.
rumor at least
Yeah.
that we
Rumors
can
are good
look at.
too.
Yeah, because a lot of people, you can get a lot from rumors, can't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating, I think. Because this is one of those cases where something more happened, but you're probably not going to find out any more about it because, it's crazy,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And it was in broad daylight, which is
Yes.
insane to me. That
Yeah.
all this happened in broad daylight.
Yeah. It's mad.
And no one knows anything. It's so strange.
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts. If you've got any thoughts on this about why possibly this could have been sealed this long and who
Mm-hmm.
you think maybe could have something to do with this, we'd be interested to hear from you. You can catch us on all our socials. Instagram's probably your quickest way to get hold of us because sometimes Facebook, I don't see notifications always on Facebook. So I would say Instagram Messenger is probably the best, quickest way to get hold of us. And also, thank you so much for your case suggestions. We've had a few now, some really good ones. So thank you so much for sending us your case suggestions. I think we've added like another 5 or 6 to our list this week. So
Yep.
it was really appreciated when you send us all your case suggestions. So thank you for that.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Are you going to lighten our mood now with a bit of Captain?
I am. So let's
Okay.
do a little dumb criminal.
Hey, use a dummy and use a piece of shit.
I love the way you says that.
I know. So good.
I love it. It's brilliant.
So good. So I have a dumb criminal from the city of Rugby in England.
Okay.
Right? So on April 6, 2021, a shop on Lawford Road in Rugby was robbed when a man pushed himself to the front of a queue and accused the shop worker of selling alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs to his 15-year-old daughter.
Oh.
He then slapped the staff member in the face and demanded cash. He would end up fleeing the scene empty-handed after being confronted by other members of the staff. Now, later on that day, the same man went to another store in Rugby, this time on Blackwood Avenue, where he threatened and punched a shop worker after again accusing him of selling alcohol to his 14-year-old daughter.
Oh my God.
He then demanded 120 pounds in cash and tobacco, which the worker handed over before calling the police. Now, officers would arrive and they would find the gentleman on Summer Road where he was arrested, and officers seized the stolen cash and tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, police ended up getting a unbelievable piece of luck pop into their lap when they went to his house to search and see what they could find. And they found a to-do list of crimes that he had written out for himself.
No.
So on this to-do list, he had the words "stick someone up?" and 100 pounds and 120 pounds, while below this was written "cash point shop robbery," which was written twice with the first crossed out as if it had been completed.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, so the gentleman, Liam Benz, ended up getting arrested, like as I said, and he was sentenced to 3 years and 5 months in prison after pleading guilty to robbery and attempted robbery.
3 years, that's a long time, isn't it, for just robbing someone?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's
Well,
crazy.
he deserved.
Well, yeah, he does deserve it, definitely. But it's like it's quite a lot, isn't it? And when you see other crimes that go like unpunished or they get like sentenced like 3 months and they only serve like half of that, And then when you think about that, he didn't actually, I know he assaulted a couple of people, but he didn't
He did,
actually, he didn't actually kill anyone or didn't. It's just, that's crazy, isn't it? What an idiot.
Yeah.
Stupid ass. He sat there and written a list.
His to-do list.
This is what I'm going to do. These are all the people I'm going to stick up and rob.
Try to rob that one. Nope, didn't work.
Didn't work. I love the dumb criminals. I did actually, when at CrimeCon, I did actually speak to Captain about this, and he was laughing because somebody said something about dumb criminal. He was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Do you remember when we asked you to say like the piece of shit, blah, blah, blah?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I don't know what you guys do with this stuff." So I explained, and he was like, "Oh, I see." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "So that's what we do every week at the end of our episode." And he was like, "Oh, okay.
Funny.
I'll have to listen." So I was like, "Yeah, you won't." But thanks. No. He's far too busy for stuff like that. Far too busy.
Yeah, so Cherry, if you're ever going to plan crimes, do not write them down on the to-do list.
Well, I'm actually going to tick that off of my to-do list now because obviously I don't want to get caught for that now. I'm going to put that to-do list in the bin because I don't
Oh my God.
So thank you for joining us this week. We will be back next week with Morgan's case next week. And then the week after, we've got a Halloween special.
Ooh. That'll be yours. You have that? You have it planned already, or are you still working
on it? Planned. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Got some fun for you for well, no, it's not really fun, but it's crime related Halloweenish stuff. Yes, that will be good. So we will be back next week with another case. We will see you then. So for now, be nice
and bye.